Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Smart Start Recreational Therapy Insights YouTube channel by Smart CU's Hub. I'm your host, Nathan Lamaster, the founder of Smart CU's Hub, and I am excited because we are on week number 25, y'all. We are one away from being halfway to our 52 episode goal for 2025, guys. Today we have an episode where we'll be diving into caregiver and family involvement. So whether you work in a clinical setting or in the community setting, a lot of times you're going to be dealing with not just the client, but you'll be dealing with their family or caregivers as well. And so we'll be talking about how we can work with them along the therapeutic process. You may design the most creative intervention in the whole entire world, okay? But if the client's home isn't supportive, progress will stall, right? So let's say you're working in behavioral health and you have these really cool interventions, and then they go home and their home life isn't supportive to that, right? It does not matter how creative or how successful your interventions were. It is really the longevity that matters. And let's face it, right? They're going to be with their family and caregivers longer than they will be in our care. So we'll be getting into that today, guys. Without further ado, let's dive on in. All right, so let's talk about why caregivers matter. Okay, caregivers play a crucial role in reinforcing what it is we work on with clients. Okay, so whether they're with us in a hospital setting, they go home, or if they're in a community setting, we work with them, and then they go home for that night, they come back. The caregivers that they live, work, play with, those types of things, right? The people that are in their lives, their family, their healthcare workers, their all of that, right? They're going to be really crucial because they provide encouragement and accountability. They help clients practice new skills. They adapt the environment for safety and success, and advocate for continued access to recreation and leisure when we are not able to do that because we're not with them 24/7, okay? So in short, they're part of the team with you and I, right? So they're going to be working with the client or living with the client, continuing the type of interventions that we, prescribe for them, right? Those types of things. When we are not with them, and face it, right? We're not going to be with them 24/7. Okay, so part of our role as recreational therapists is that we educate and we train the caregivers and family members. Okay, so that they are at least somewhat competent to continue what we're working with the client on. Okay, so your role as a recreational therapist includes teaching caregivers how to facilitate activities that align with treatment goals. So the treatment goals that you guys came up with, you're going to explain this to the caregivers and why they're doing them. Okay. Use adaptive tools or equipment correctly. You're going to train them how to use the equipment if there is some that you're wanting to be used. Support without taking over. Okay. Finding that just right level of help. So a lot of times family members in particular, right, they, let's say they had a kid who had a developmental disability growing up, and they got used to trying to do everything for that client, right? Which, in their mind, they might be thinking that they're caring, they might be thinking that they're being helpful, but in reality, they're limiting the ability for independence for that loved one, right? I remember a story. So I was at Sac State in California. That's where I went to school. And we had a day where we were supposed to live a life like, somebody who had a wheelchair and go around campus and do all those things, right? The goal was to see what it would be like for somebody that that had a wheelchair for mobility, right? And so going through doors, going up ramps, going to the bathroom, all those things, right? We had to do all those things. And so a lot of times people would come by and they might see that I was having difficulty going up a ramp or going through a door. They would help, right? But let's say that those people weren't there. And let's say I learned to rely on that help all the time. And if, like I was in that situation and I really didn't know what to do, chances are I would just kind of give up, right? Because I've been so used to other people doing it for me my whole entire life. That kind of mindset is what you're going to be battling with the client and also with their family members to kind of not enforce the learned helplessness that happens when people are trying to help, right? But you want to give them enough goals and you want to give them the ability to step in when it's necessary, because there's going to be times when help is needed, but you also don't want to take away the ability for the client to have independence. So you're going to teach that to the family members. And then monitor and celebrate client progress, along the way. Okay. This can be done through written guides or handouts. So you might have some written, discharge planning if it's leaving a hospital, or you might have a booklet or PDF or something that they can use that explains what it is you're wanting them to do, right? That's a great tool for them to use and go back to when they have questions, okay? It could be a short video demonstration. I mean, you could have yourself on camera, or, maybe it's a professional video that your company has, and it's how to do the thing that you're doing, okay? Side-by-side participation during sessions, okay? Doing it with the family members so they can see what you're doing and mimic that. Ongoing check-ins or follow-up calls. Okay, you want to, if you have the ability, the bandwidth to be able to talk to the families after they leave the hospital. Truth is, we a lot of times don't have that because we're doing what we have to do to get through all the work we have at the hospital. But in the settings that they allow to, call family up, see how the client's doing when they've left the hospital, that, sets you up here, right? You're that much better of a recreational therapist because you went above and beyond, right? You are showing that you really care about how the client is, working on their progress. And even a 10-minute conversation can empower a caregiver for weeks. So establishing open communication lines is essentially important. It's key. That means inviting caregivers to share what's working and what's not, so they can kind of let you know at home, or when you're not with the client and they were doing the things, what kind of difficulties, challenges, did they see progress? Did they see it being able to be brought over into this environment of the home or whatever it is, right? That information will be really helpful for you, so you can kind of give tips and tricks and help them along that way. So establishing open lines of communication is essential to this process of working with family members, okay? That means inviting the caregivers to share what's working and what's not. So when you're not with the client, let's say you had these goals for the client and you've taught the family members, you've given them tools, and maybe in their home environment it isn't working, or maybe there's something going on with their loved one, family member, that is not the same when they're not with you. And maybe you can work on things with them to kind of tweak it so that it works for that client. And then asking for family member input is also really important when you're setting these goals, because they're the ones that are sitting with them. They know them pretty well a lot of times because they're with them way longer than we are. And that helps with figuring out what are the appropriate goals, things that they've noticed in that person's life that should be worked on or could be worked on. And then giving clear, jargon-free updates, so not using any of the acronyms that we use, not saying utilize or trying to do FEM scores, or I don't know, whatever else we're doing in our setting that we're doing, right? Use real human language, like I'm talking to you right now, use that same language back, okay? And give those updates about the progress. And then being open to cultural differences. So not everybody comes from the same background and culture. So maybe the caregiver role in a certain culture is different than what you would think, okay? And maybe it's considered disrespectful, or maybe it's considered, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that various cultures have that we aren't necessarily used to all the time in the Western world. And those things need to be in consideration because that's the environment the client's going back into, okay? Or the client lives in currently. When caregivers feel heard, when they feel that you actually are understanding them and addressing their needs, and they're informed, they're more likely to be on track with you. They're going to be your biggest fan. They're going to be like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. They also understand me and they want the best for my loved one, which is what they want. So you're aligned with those goals. And they are way more likely to stay engaged. All right, sometimes it can be really difficult to set boundaries. Okay, so family members and caregivers want to maybe get their hands in everything, right? They want to, be more involved and kind of tell you how to do your job, okay? And that's a real world thing, right? So it's a very tricky part, okay? So support without overreach. And RTs are not responsible for fixing the family dynamics, okay? That is something that we're not going to be able to do on top of what we're doing with the clients. Okay, that's going to be something maybe family therapists, maybe over a period of years can help with. I mean, we all have our own family dynamics, and you couldn't just go to somebody and then the next day be like, oh yeah, I feel better now. We totally get each other. That's just not realistic. Okay, so we're not going to be there providing 24-hour coaching, telling them you shouldn't have done that, those types of things. So let's set healthy boundaries from the beginning. And I think we need to be open with that communication with the caregivers and family members. So we're going to clarify our own role as the therapist. Okay. We're going to let them know what we're doing, what to expect from us, so that when the process happens and those things might creep in, they know exactly what it is you said you're going to do, and you're doing it. You're honest, okay? You're going to redirect mental health or emotional concerns to other individuals. Maybe it's an LPC on your team. Maybe it's a social worker. Maybe it's somebody that's going to work with the client on a long-term basis, specifically on the emotional dynamics, those types of things. Although we do that as well, we just more so do it through recreation and leisure, and we also probably more so do psychotherapy, which is like a short-term type therapy rather than counseling. Okay, so that's kind of a difference there, and avoiding burnout, yours and theirs, right, that's a very important reason to set these boundaries. So support doesn't mean over functioning. It means equipping families with the tools to thrive on their own, because they are their own unit. All right, so let's recap for today. So caregivers are extensions of the therapy team, right? You are on their team, they are on your team. Provide them with clear, actionable tools and to reinforce your work. Keep communication open, respectful, and collaborative, and set realistic expectations from the beginning with them. Set those boundaries, okay? And all right, so let's recap for today. Caregivers are extensions of the therapy team. They're on your team, you're on their team, we're both on the client's team. Provide them with clear, actionable tools to reinforce your work, right? That is something you should be doing. Keep communication open, respectful, and collaborative. and set realistic expectations for them and yourself. Okay, so that from the beginning, everybody knows what you're there for and what you're doing. Okay, I'm interested in hearing from y'all now. What are some of the stories that you have when working with clients, families, or caregivers that might be helpful examples that you would like to share with other recreational therapists that watch these videos? Please comment them below, or if you want to email me, Nathan at Smart CU's Hub. I'd love to hear them as well, so we can start talking about those things. So next week on the Smart Start Recreational Therapy YouTube channel, we'll be making a splash with, you guessed it, going into aquatics therapy. Yes, here, hence the pun, splash, right? We have a pool in our neighborhood, and I might be able to use it, not making any promises, but it would be a great, I think, visual for this next video, so I might try that. Might not. We'll see how it goes. But thank you guys so much. As always, have a great rest of your week. Happy Monday, and stay classy.